Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Hare Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Nashingade, Jaya Nashingade, Nashingade, Jaya Nashingade. Jaya Nashingade, Jaya Nashingade, Jaya Nashingade, Nashingade, Jaya Nashingade. Nashingade, Jaya Bhakta Pralad, Jaya Bhakta Pralad, Bhakta Pralad, Jaya Bhakta Pralad. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Nitya Gaura Haribol, 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 Nitya Gaura Haribol. Haribol, Nitya Gaura Haribol, Nitya Gaura Haribol, 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 Nitya Gaura Haribol.
Hare Krishna. So thank you everyone for coming to Bhaktivedanta Manor this Sunday afternoon. You could have been at many other different places, but you chose and made the wonderful choice of coming here to the sacred home of Sri Sri Radha Gokulananda. So now there'll be a class on the ancient scripture Bhagavad Gita. Put your hands up if you've heard of the Bhagavad Gita before. Okay, some of you have. Keep your hands up if you have a copy of the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, there's more hands up of people who have the copy of the Bhagavad Gita than people who know of the Gita. That's also good, but it's also nice to know what it is. If you don't have a copy, you can get one from the reception. It's an amazing book, very relevant and profound wisdom. But now we'll be having a class on this Bhagavad Gita, just sharing some insights and wisdom from this ancient book. And in the meantime, there's also prasadam being served in the Haveli. So please do stick around. Thank you for coming, and we hope to see you again next week. Hare Krishna. maybe just sit on the side and see Jai Radha Madhav for like 10 minutes and see if anyone comes up. Because if you sit on the side,
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. We're now going to have one class, so we humbly request if devotees can move to this side of the hall, therefore be easier to see, etc. So if everyone, as you're comfortable. And then before we start class, we'll sing one bhajan called Jai Radha Madhava. Prabhupada, he would always sing this before he gave class. It's a very, very special song. So for those who know the words, you can sing along. Perhaps we have someone playing mridanga. Someone can play cartels? Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavala Giridharadhari Jaya Gopi Janavala Giridharadhari Cartels. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavala Giridharadhari Jaya Gopi Janavala Giridharadhari Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavihari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Jaya Radha Gokulananda Radha Gokulananda Shri Radhe Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman Ram Lakshman Hanuman Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Gaur Brahmanande. There you go. Hare Krishna, the devotees. It's a pleasure to see you. You look very happy today. It's nice. You've got some holidays, bank holidays? Yes. I always forget it's Easter. I used to live in Scotland, in a temple in Scotland. And we had this program where the students would come every Sunday. A team of students would come. And they come and do some work on the farms. They get some prasadam. They'd hear some of kirtan. And a really nice program. And one Sunday, we forgot it was Easter, as we organised everything, and the only people who came, we had a whole bus full of Chinese people who didn't speak any English. And they were supposed to come and work in the gardens. We had like nice farms out in the countryside, and some of them were wearing high-heeled shoes. They didn't understand what was going to happen, but somehow they had a nice time as well. So often we forget about Easter, but Easter is it's a very special festival actually. So today we're reading from Bhagavad Gita, as it is. So if you can repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so today we're skipping through the Bhagavad Gita. See, Krishna is an excellent teacher. He teaches many things, but also he teaches us how to teach. So in the Bhagavad Gita at the beginning, he gives us a summary of what he's going to say. Then he explains it, and in the end he gives a conclusion of what he said. Because so often we hear nice things, it goes in one ear, and before we've registered anything, it goes out again. Yeah. Sometimes you can spend it, we have class every morning, and you can spend the whole hour in class, and you leave and you go, got nothing, because you weren't there. You know, so we actually have to make an effort to assimilate. So Krishna is such an excellent teacher. He's causing Arjuna to actually get this knowledge to come deep inside of him. And so there's a difference between just knowledge in the head and knowledge in the heart. Some people say the biggest distance in the world is the distance from our head to our heart, between what we know we should do versus what we actually do. So in Sanskrit they say the word vijnana. There's jnana, which is knowledge, and vijnana means realized knowledge. Realize means to make something real. If something's not real, what's the use in it? You know, you can go and do. Anyone here watch Mastermind on the TV? It's a Mastermind quiz show. So your specialist topic could be Bhagavad Gita. And you could do that, answer all the questions. But if you've not realized anything, what's the use? Whereas if you could actually realize one verse, Prabhupada said, even if you can read one page, he said, read one chapter of this book. And the devotee looked at him and he said, no, even if you read one page. And the devotee still looked at him and he said, even if you read one paragraph. He said, one sentence. He said, even one word, your life will be changed. If you can actually realize one word. I heard the analogy is like someone could memorize a cookbook. Now, perhaps we all have cookbooks in our house. There's nice recipes, so you can memorize how to make very, very fancy food. You know, this amount of salt and this amount of spices, and cook it for this amount of time. You can memorize the whole cookbook. But what use is that if you can't cook? Better to do one recipe properly. So today we're reading from the 18th chapter. So the 18th chapter is the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is summarizing everything he's already said and giving some more impetus to really get serious. So this is text 55. It's one of my favorite texts. So I will recite the Sanskrit and then we'll read the purport, and then together we'll try and get a little bit deeper in this knowledge. Okay? So it's not on the board, so I'll read it myself, the Sanskrit. Bhaktya mam abhijanati avam yaschasmi tatvataha tato mam tatvato gyatva vishate tadanantaram. Bhaktya, so this is a word-for-word translation Srila Prabhupada has given. Bhaktya, by pure devotional service, mam, me, abhijanati, one can know, yavam, as much as, yachasmi, as I am, tatvataha, in truth, tata, thereafter, mam, me, tatvataha, in truth, gyatva, knowing, vishate, he enters, tat anantaram, thereafter. So the translation given by Srila Prabhupada. One can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. And then the purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and his plenary portions cannot be understood by mental speculation, nor by the non-devotees. If anyone wants to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has to take to pure devotional service under the guidance of a pure devotee. Otherwise, the truth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead will always be hidden. As already stated in Bhagavad Gita, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya, he is not revealed to everyone. No one can understand God simply by erudite scholarship or mental speculation. Only one who is actually engaged in Krishna consciousness and devotional service can understand what Krishna is. University degrees are not helpful. One who is fully conversant with the Krishna science becomes eligible to enter into the spiritual kingdom, the abode of Krishna. Becoming Brahman does not mean that one loses his identity. Devotional service is there, and as long as devotional service exists, there must be God, the devotee, and the process of devotional service. Such knowledge is never vanquished, even after liberation. Liberation involves getting free from the concept of material life. In spiritual life, the same distinction is there, the same individuality is there, but in pure Krishna consciousness. One should not mistakenly think that the word Vishate enters into me supports the monist theory that one becomes homogeneous with the impersonal Brahman. No. Vishate means that one can enter into the abode and render service unto him. For instance, a green bird enters a green tree not to become one with the tree, but to enjoy the fruits of the tree. Impersonalists generally give the example of a river flowing into the ocean and merging. This may be a source of happiness for the impersonalists, but the personalist keeps his personal identity like an aquatic in the ocean. We find so many living entities within the ocean if we go deep. Surface acquaintance with the ocean is not sufficient. One must have complete knowledge of the aquatics living in the ocean's depths. Because of his pure devotional service, a devotee can understand the transcendental qualities and the opulences of the Supreme Lord in truth. As stated in the 11th chapter, only by devotional service can one understand. The same is confirmed here. One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by devotional service and enter into his kingdom. After attainment of the Brahma Bhutta stage of freedom from material conceptions, devotional service begins by one's hearing about the Lord. When one hears about the Supreme Lord, automatically the Brahma Bhutta stage develops, and material contamination, greediness, and lust for sense enjoyment disappears. As lust and desires disappear from the heart of a devotee, he becomes more attached to the service of the Lord, and by such attachment he becomes free from material contamination. In that state of life he can understand the Supreme Lord. This is the statement of Srimad Bhagavatam also. After liberation, the process of bhakti, or transcendental service, continues. The Vedanta Sutra confirms this. Aprayanat tatrapi hidrishtam. This means that after liberation, the process of devotional service continues. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, real devotional service, devotional liberation, is identified as a reinstatement of the living entity in his own identity, his own constitutional position. The constitutional position is already explained. Every living entity is a part and parcel fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord. Therefore his constitutional position is to serve. After liberation, this service is never stopped. Actual liberation is getting free from misconceptions of life. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki. Oma Gyanatam Randasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Meditam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pasthata Desitarane. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Everybody, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai. So this is a very, very special verse in the Bhagavad Gita. This is basically summarizing the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes we give the book to people. They see this book and they get very scared. That's a big book, you know. Especially nowadays, people don't read so much. People are not so used to reading. And we often go out on the streets and we give people books. And you excite them. You tell them about this knowledge. They get very interested. And they see how big it is and they go, oh, no. I can't do that. They say, does it have an audiobook? And we say, yes, it's got an audiobook. But actually, Bhagavad Gita is very systematized. And it's very easy to follow. And basically this verse is very, very key to understand. Because right now we're in a material situation where, in all honesty, we don't know who we are. We don't know where we are. And we don't know what we're supposed to be doing. See, this is the situation of Arjuna at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. We're very confused about our identity. You know, so often we identify with this particular body this particular country we come from, this particular occupation we have, this particular social status. All these things which are temporary, all these things which will be taken away in the course of time, we identify with these because we don't know who we truly are. And again, we don't know where we are. See, we think the Bhagavad Gita describes actually this world as like an upside down banyan tree. Basically, it's a network of desires that we've been passing through for many, many lifetimes. Actually, this entire lifetime is like reading one chapter of a book. And just by reading one chapter, you cannot understand the full picture. See, spiritual knowledge, it elevates us and it gives us a much broader conception of life. We've been passing through for a very, very long time. So Bhagavad Gita teaches us first who we are, it teaches us where we are, and finally it teaches us what we should be doing for the final destination, working at where we're going. So Bhagavad Gita is teaching us that devotional service to Krishna is actually the eternal occupation of the living entity. So in order to understand who we are, it's very simple. It states, it's quoted in one of the purports of the Bhagavad Gita, if you know Krishna, then you know everything. And if you don't know Krishna, then what do you know? Nothing. You see, you get so many academic people, they can have big PhDs and so many letters after their name. I also went to university and thought that I knew everything. But Prabhupada describes all these qualifications of knowing so many things. These are actually zero. And you get many zeros. But if you add up 0 and 0 and 0 and 0, and if you've got 100 zeros all in a row, what does it add up to? It's still 0. But if you put 1 in front of it, and that 1 is Krishna, then what do you have? A very big number. So unless you actually understand Krishna, then your knowledge has no real value. Simply it's speculation, Prabhupada says. Speculation means trying to work out where we are upon our own merit. And so the way to know Krishna is very, very simple. He's explaining this in this verse. One can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. See, we cannot understand Krishna by doing PhD, by doing university, by reading so many books. Actually, Krishna has to reveal himself to us. So it's interesting. Every day we live at the temple and we come before the deities. And Krishna, you can say, well, Krishna looks the same every day. No, Krishna does not look the same every day. You'll notice, and I'm sure many of you have noticed as well, when you do some service for Krishna, Krishna reveals himself more. You may be looking at the altar and you can see how Krishna, he's smiling at you. He's looking at you. So Krishna is very active. Devotional service, spiritual life is a relationship. And there's a famous phrase they say, it takes two to tango. Who's heard this phrase? It takes two to tango. So it means if you want to dance, you need a partner. So same in spiritual life. We're actually trying to develop a relationship with Krishna. So it's a two-way thing. So actually by us serving Krishna, then he reveals himself to us. And he lets more things about himself be known. And once we actually understand Krishna, Krishna states in the 4th chapter, Janma karma chame divyam evam yovati tattvaha. No, Janma karma chame divyam evam yovati tattvaha. Tyaktva deha punar janma naiti mam viti sojana. That janma, Krishna is saying, my birth, karma, my activities, these are all transcendental. Everything about me is transcendental. And if you can understand this, then when you leave your body, you do not come back. If you can understand Krishna, that's all it takes. If you can understand Krishna, then you can go to Krishna. Because actually the more you understand about Krishna, there's a natural thing that happens. See, the more you know about Krishna, the word Krishna, the name Krishna means all attractive. And so the more you hear about Krishna, the more you develop love for Krishna. Then the more you want to serve Krishna. And the more you serve Krishna, the more Krishna reveals himself to you. Therefore, the more attracted you come to Krishna. Therefore, the more you want to serve. Therefore, the more he reveals to you. And this is a cycle which goes on exponentially. Exponentially means something which keeps increasing and increasing by a bigger amount every time. So devotional service like this, people think spiritual life, this is a thing for old people. Yeah, right now I've got my life. You know, I'll get my job, I'll become successful, I'll get a family. When I'm old, then I can focus on Krishna. He'll be there, he's waiting. He's not going to move. Krishna's not going to move. I can enjoy my life. And then later when I'm old, yeah, I'll get serious about that. But why? Because actually, if you look out in the world, people who are just trying to enjoy their own life, they're not very happy. But people who are trying to understand Krishna, or trying to serve Krishna, they're very, very happy. And it's stated, you can go into any country in the world, you can talk to any person, no matter what language they speak, any occupation, anything they're doing, and if you ask them deep, deep down, what is your real desire? What will they say? To be happy. Simple as that. Even if you look at an ant, a little ant crawling on the ground, if you place a grain of sugar, the ant will go towards the sugar. What does this demonstrate? It demonstrates that the nature of every living entity is to seek happiness. We are seeking happiness because we are full of bliss. The soul is Sat Chit Ananda. It means it's eternal, it's full of knowledge, and it's full of bliss. But currently we're in a situation which is asat, it's temporary. There's not so much knowledge about it. You know, we have to spend so long trying to memorize things and we forget them very, very quickly. And also it's Nirananda, there's no bliss here. But we're looking for that happiness. And that happiness can actually only be found in our relationship with Krishna. See, spiritual life is not something foreign or something strange. Spiritual life is putting a fish back in the water. Currently, we are fish that are out of the water. And we're flapping around, and someone can try and give us a massage, or put us in a nice comfy bed, or give us a Rolls Royce. But at the end of the day, if you don't give a fish water, it's not going to be very happy. Temporarily, it might be happy, but what use is temporary happiness? If again it's going to be taken away. So that's why we have to actually develop for that real happiness. And that real happiness comes from serving Krishna. And so the more we serve Krishna, then the more he reveals himself to us. And this is a transcendental adventure. Because I said it takes two to tango. So everybody's looking for love, but the real is love is with Krishna, and love is not passive. Some people, they have this conception of spiritual life. They think, oh yes, I'm going to become enlightened. Okay, I will sit in the Himalayas for 42 years. I will close my eyes and look at the tip of my nose. I will eat 1 peanut per day. And every third day, I will take a breath. I will become enlightened. But actually, their conception of enlightenment is somewhat false. Because their conception of enlightenment is described here to be like a river flowing into the ocean. Currently, I am I. But they think I'm going to lose that individuality and merge into this all-pervading spirit. This, you could say, nothingness. This right now, people think I am experiencing some pain, I just want to get free from everything. Like perhaps some people, they go on a night out and they wear some very tight shoes. They want to look fancy, so they wear some tight shoes. Anyone can relate to this, especially ladies. I remember when I was at school, they'd already be taller than the men, and then they wear shoes that would make them way taller. But the shoes are very painful, and so they want to take the shoes off. And so that is seen as a source of happiness. Okay, I'm experiencing pain now, and then I take off the shoes, then my suffering is cessated. But that's not real happiness. That is simply a cessation of suffering. So that is most people's conception of spiritual life, is simply to be free from the sufferings of this material world. But Krishna consciousness is a positive understanding of where we truly belong. Krishna consciousness is about developing love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and his devotees. Krishna consciousness is about actually understanding that eternally I am an individual and I have an eternal relationship with Krishna. And when I'm established in that relationship, it says Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam, an ever-increasing ocean of bliss. So actually, this scientific knowledge given in the Bhagavad Gita is described to be Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam. It's the king of all education, and it's the most secret of all secrets. And it's secret because ultimately, by the process of devotional service, see, anybody can come before Krishna and they can say, Krishna, okay, please, I'd like a new car. Please, Krishna, my next door neighbor, they're really, really annoying me and I just can't stand them. Please, can you help? You can say, Krishna, this lady at work, there's something about her, I think she hates me. We can come to Krishna with all these material problems. And it's fine. And Krishna will help. But Krishna's not so interested in this. But you see, the process of devotional service, real devotional service is described Anya Balasita Sunyam, Jnana Karma Janavritam. Pure devotional service is free from karma and jnana. So it's free from any desire for material reward. It's not that we come to the temple and we give some donation or we chant Krishna's names or we do some service because we want something. No, pure devotional service is simply out of the desire to serve. Not that I want to get free from this suffering, simply to serve. And it's described that devotional service, Sri Krishna Karshini, actually it attracts Krishna. See, Krishna is God. Okay, well we could say God is Krishna. The two are equal. And God is completely independent. You cannot put any rules. You cannot say God should be like this, God should be like this. Philosophers would like to do this. They like to say God should be like this. Actually, Prabhupada was speaking with some intellectuals from, there's this society of people who have IQ over a certain number. I can't remember the name of the society, Menti or Mentra or something. And one person thought, I'm going to trick Prabhupada. I've got a question. He said, so Swamiji, if your God is so great, can he create an object so heavy that he cannot lift it? So this is a trick question many philosophers ask. Because if God is all powerful, then he can create the most powerful object, so heavy they cannot lift it. But then, if he's also all powerful, then he must be able to lift it. So either he's not all knowledgeable or he's not all powerful. So it's like a trick question. And Prabhupada just looked at me and said, yes, Krishna can create an object so heavy you cannot lift it, and then he will lift it. This Krishna is beyond any particular conception. So by this process of pure devotional service, then actually Krishna, he becomes attracted towards us. It's described when we chant the Maha Mantra. The Maha Mantra is the names of Krishna. It's got so many meanings, but really we are trying to attract Krishna into our hearts. You know, Prabhupada said we should chant like the child crying for his mother. Why does the child cry for his mother? There's different reasons, but the child is trying to attract the attention of the mother because the child feels very safe and nourished in that relationship. Similarly, we're trying to attract Krishna's attention. We're trying to conquer Krishna. And this is the real adventure. So regarding the Prabhupada's purport here, he describes how by the process of hearing, then our Krishna consciousness begins. So actually, as we're saying in the beginning, in this material world we don't really know who we are. But by this process of hearing, this is how we can actually understand properly who we are. This Bhagavad Gita is giving us a systematic study of understanding actually that we are eternal. And so every day we have to make some endeavor to read these books. You know, they say all these, yes, everybody has Bhagavad Gita. And many people, they have it on their shelf, and that's it. It looks nice, but what good is a book doing on its shelf? Krishna says later, at the end of the 18th chapter, whoever studies his conversation, he worships me by his intelligence. So this knowledge is there for us to actually systematically understand. And we'll see in every single aspect of life, this knowledge is helping us. So by this simultaneous process of understanding these books, by getting together and chanting Hare Krishna, we can chant individually on beads. It's described the Maha Mantra is a medicine. And so you can take medicine as tablets, you can chant on beads, or you can take it, if your disease is very severe, then you have to take an intravenous, an injection. That's like kirtan. Everybody gets together and you absorb yourself in these names. And Krishna's name enters deep into your heart, and within the heart it purifies us from all these misconceptions we have about life. And it reawakens us to who we truly are. And it's a joyful process. It says, Susukam kartamavyayam. This process is eternal and it is joyfully performed. But we have to take that step. We have to be convinced that actually my relationship with Krishna is the most important thing. And that conviction comes by associating with advanced devotees. We come to the temple, and oftentimes the temple can just be a social place. Yeah, it's nice, we come, we see Krishna, we take some prasad. But actually we should make an endeavor to see. There's some very senior devotees living in this temple who've been living here for many years. You should go to them. You should speak to them. You should ask them questions. Any question. Devotees, they like any opportunity to speak about Krishna. Any opportunity. So they'll be very happy to hear you asking questions about Krishna. And it said by one moment's association with a pure devotee, then it can fulfill all necessities, all desires. But we have to take that step. So we have free will, and Krishna is just waiting for us to actually make an endeavor towards him. And when he's there, he will reciprocate. He'll send so many people on our path who are ready to teach us. Actually, we can learn from anybody and everybody. So this process is very special. And the Bhagavad Gita is very special. And it's all by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. So perhaps anybody has any questions so far about, it can be anything in general or anything upon this particular talk. Prabhuji, you have a question? No? Okay, I'll read a little bit more of the purport and then we'll finish up. But keep thinking of questions. Questions are good. I like questions. So here there's two analogies. So in spiritual life, really there's only two groups of people. Many different religions, but there's only really two groups of people if you actually boil it down. Okay? There's the personalists and the impersonalists. Everybody else is an atheist. People don't believe in anything. And of those people who actually believe in God or believe in the divine, there's two camps. There's those who are personalists and those who are impersonalists. Okay, so personal means that I understand that I am a person and God is a person and we exist in a relationship. And the impersonalist means that currently I think I'm a person, but really I am actually God. And when I get free from this illusion, I'm going to become God. And actually, Prabhupada, we chant Prabhupada's pranam mantras. We say, Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pracharane, Nirvishesha Sunyavadi, Paschata Desitarane. Prabhupada came to the Western countries to defeat this philosophy that I am God. See, most people, they are convinced, actually, either, I spend a lot of time speaking to people in the street, and so maybe I'd say about 60% of people, no. Spiritual life, nonsense, not from me. And then you get another perhaps 30% of people who are like, yeah, I'm a spiritual person. And then as soon as you scrape the surface of their spirituality, what do they think? They think that ultimately I am God. We are all God. Me, you, we're exactly the same. We have no individuality. So they think of this analogy of the river flowing into the ocean. And the problem with this philosophy is close to the truth, because they realize that they're not this body. They realize that they are spirit soul. They realize they are spiritual. But they have incomplete knowledge. It's great. Their knowledge is actually stolen by illusion. And the higher knowledge is this analogy here, which Prabhupada states: so a green bird flying into a green tree to enjoy the fruits on that tree. So actually, we are spiritual. We are not these bodies. We are aham brahmasmi. We and the Lord, we are transcendental. But we exist eternally as an individual. Mam ivamsu jiva loke, jiva bhutta sanatana. Mam ivamsa. Amsa means an eternal fragmental part of the Lord. So we are qualitatively one with God. But quantitatively, we are very, very small. And God is very, very great. Prabhupada would give the analogy, if you take one drop of the ocean, if you were to chemically analyze it, you could see, okay, there's this much salt, there's this much potassium, there's this much seaweed, etc. And that would be the same for the entirety of the ocean. But nonetheless, that amount of salt is not equal to the amount of salt in the ocean. So like this, we are godly, but we are not God. And our relationship, it describes in this purport, eternally there exists the Bhakta. The Bhakta is a devotee. Bhagavan is God. And how are these two connected? By the process of bhakti. Very simple. Bhakta. What's Bhakta? The devotee. Bhagavan. And bhakti. Devotional service. So we can simply remember this one thing. Eternally, I'm a devotee of God. And by this process of bhakti yoga, yoga means to connect. Yoga does not mean to do some fancy stretches. Yoga means to connect. And the highest form of connecting with God is by the process of devotional service. And the most potent means of devotional service in this age, can anybody guess? Seva? Seva means service. But specifically, what is the most recommended means of service in this age? Is it washing pots? Is it going out and organizing car parking? Harinam. It said, Harinam, Harinam, Harinam eva kevalam. Kalonashteva, Kalonashteva, Kalonashteva gatiranyata. In this age of Kali, currently this is not a great age for spiritual life. It's like everything, it's like we're running up the escalator in the wrong direction. And everybody's coming down the opposite way. It's difficult. But in this age, there's one great boon. There's one great benediction. Harinama, Harinama, Harinam eva kevalam. By the process of chanting the holy names of the Lord, we can receive all benediction. By this process of chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, we can develop pure love for God. And this is the perfection of life. You develop love for God, then your life is perfect. Prema Marto Mahan. So Prabhupada, he said, we've come here to spread the chanting of the holy names. Simply the only occupation. And we can chant for ourselves, and this is very good. But you see, Krishna, he does not just have a relationship with you. No, Krishna, aham bija pradapadam. Krishna is a seed-giving father of every single living entity. Therefore, he has a unique and special relationship with every single living entity. Has anyone ever been to one of these 3D films? You know the films where you get the special goggles? Yeah, put your hand up if you've been to one of these films. Okay? I remember going to one, I was quite young. And I'm from Scotland, they had this very huge cinema. It was like called an IMAX. For my first time going, I was quite small, and it was, at this time, this was like maybe, 15 years, a long time ago. I was very small. It was very new at this time, first time being, so you get the big goggles. And I remember it very well. It was some Christmas film, and Santa Claus was there. And so Santa Claus, because this was they were newly demonstrating these 3D films, so he had lots of moments where he would sort of basically come out the screen and point at you. And I felt very special because he'd always point at me. And my brother was sitting on the opposite side of the cinema, and he came out afterwards saying, yeah, Santa was pointing at me. And I was like, no. He was pointing at me. And then later we discovered the way the technology works. He's pointing at everybody. So Krishna has a unique and special relationship with every single living entity. And so imagine there's a father of the household, and he's got many children. Now you may try and serve that father, you may serve your father very nicely, and try and be nice to him, and get his favor. But if you're not nice to your siblings, your father's not going to be very impressed. He's going to think, this person doesn't really understand the true nature of things. But actually, if you can understand that all these people are my brothers and sisters, and they have a relationship with my father as well, then you want to serve everybody. So Krishna consciousness means to become the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. Actually become the well-wisher of everybody. See, Prabhupada, whenever we'd sign his letters, he would write your ever well-wisher. Because not only does one understand his relationship with Krishna, but one understands his relationship with every single other living entity in relation to Krishna. Krishna does not exist alone. You see, imagine, say the king comes to Bhaktivedanta Mana. Okay, is he going to come alone? Just going to rock up in his car, drive himself, come in the door, take darshan? No, the king's going to have an entourage, people with him. So same with Krishna. Krishna does not come alone. Krishna comes with his devotees. And so we have to make loving relationships with his devotees as well. And who is Krishna's devotees? Okay, you can see there's these people, they got shaved heads and they wear funny clothes. They're devotees. No. Everybody's a devotee of Krishna. Every single living entity. Currently, it's simply like we are spiritually asleep. And some people are more awake. Or perhaps we have spiritual amnesia. Amnesia when you forget things. But this does not change our constitutional position. So actually, by this process of devotional service, when we're actually serving Krishna, then he gives us his knowledge, he gives us his ability to see how every single living entity is actually also a part and parcel of God. And then this is true compassion. Many people, there's these beautiful things on YouTube. Many of us, I struggled, I used to be, on social media. And when you try and give up social media, the mind sometimes gets a bit restless. Now, social media can be a little bit of a negative place sometimes. It's not great for your spiritual life. But naturally, I wanted things to look at. So I started watching these called Prabhupada Memories on YouTube. I would very much recommend all these devotees who spent time with Prabhupada, they share their memories of Prabhupada. And it's incredible because you see how Prabhupada touched the hearts of so many people. So many people. And many people, they say the same thing. When Prabhupada looked at them, they felt, I've never felt such compassion before. See, this man, he can look at me, he can fully understand me. And we realize actually how previously all our relationships have been very much on the surface. You could be married with someone, you can be related in a family, it could be mother and daughter, father and son. You could be working with someone, you could be living next door to someone for 40 years. But your relationship can be on the surface because you see that person as the body. Why do I love you? Because you're from the same family as me. That's so superficial. See, Prabhupada, he could penetrate deep, deep, deep into the essence of who the people were and love them on the basis of the soul. So many people try and fight inequality, racism, sexism, all these things. But it's completely based upon the body. What good is it going to do if you file some legislation that in this workplace we're going to have, yes, 10% of the people will be of this ethnicity, 10% will be of this gender, 10%, etc., to fit some quota for equality. It's completely superficial because it's based upon the body. But by this process of elevating people spiritually, by giving out these books, by teaching people to chant Hare Krishna, we can actually uplift the entire consciousness of society, whereby people will be able to appreciate each other on the nature of the soul. We are facing so many problems in this society right now. You don't need to be a fanatic. You can ask anybody, they'll say, yes, this society is crazy. Whether it's mental health, whether it's the environment, whether it's conflict that's happening in many, many parts of the world, whether it's poverty, rising house price, everything. There are so many problems. And we try and solve the symptoms. Okay, yeah, if we ban petrol cars, then we're going to solve the environment. No. That's not going to work. You're solving a symptom. The root issue, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, the spiritual master Srila Prabhupada, he said, the only thing that's lacking in this world is Krishna consciousness. Is his actual systematic knowledge of who is God and who am I. Because if people actually understand who is God, who am I, what am I doing here? Have you said these three questions? Who am I? Where am I? And what am I doing? If you can actually understand this, then you can become a well-wisher of everybody. And see, you think, well, what good is it if it's just me? But everybody is situated within a circle of influence. Perhaps you're in a family, you're in some social group, you're in some workplace, and you've got people who will look up to you and respect you. You may not notice it, but there's people who are looking up to you and respecting you. Maybe one person, maybe 5 people, maybe 10 people, it does not matter. But if you can uplift yourself, then these people are connected to you. They'll also get uplifted. And they've got connections, and they'll get uplifted. And they've got connections, they'll get uplifted. And actually, many times I spend time on the street giving out books, and people can say, what good are you doing? People are dying. Children are starving. What good is it for you coming out here and simply giving me some silly religious book? And you can respond, okay, what good is it? Prabhupada would say, if you simply care for the dress of a drowning man. A man is drowning in an ocean. I say, my dear fellow man, please let me save your coat. I will save your coat so it doesn't get wet. I will hang it up nicely. What good is that? The man is drowning. Unless we give systematic spiritual knowledge, therefore it's described as Srimad Bhagavatam. This is there to bring about a revolution in the mass of the misdirected civilization. Spiritual knowledge is not passive. Spiritual knowledge, we actually have a duty to imbibe this knowledge. And the essence of this knowledge is that by chanting Hare Krishna, we can develop love and knowledge of Krishna. And we have a duty to share this with others. Because we understand that every single other living entity is also a part and parcel of Krishna. They are my brothers and sisters. People talk about universal brotherhood, but you have universal brotherhood without a universal father. So we're all brothers and sisters, every single living entity in the world, and therefore have a duty to try and bring them back to Krishna. So I humbly request all of you, it's described, you make your life perfect by chanting Hare Krishna, by systematically studying these books, by coming to the temple, by doing service, by associating with devotees, but do not stop there. Then you have a duty to then share it with others. And actually, this is the service which is most dear to Krishna. Because Krishna has a unique relationship with every single living entity. And that means that every single living person, only they can provide a certain pleasure for Krishna. Every single person has a unique relationship. Therefore, only they can provide a particular service for Krishna. Therefore, we may think, yes, I want to do service for Krishna. But the higher service is actually to bring other people so they can also do service for Krishna. So this is a mood of our acharyas. This is a mood of Lord Chaitanya, and ultimately this is a mood of Srimati Radharani. So, if we can, one last time, chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and we can make a prayer that we're going to make some endeavor to bring this mantra into our heart, to study these books, and to share it with others. No. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So, if there's any quick questions or comments? Hare Krishna. The trigger point. Yeah, I remember. For 1 year, I used to live very close to the manor. I came to study at one school here. And then one time I was out on the street. I used to play music to try and make some money, because I was a student and I had no money. And then I seen this very funny looking man with a very dodgy haircut and a strange fashion sense wandering down. And he sort of came up to me and he gave me some book. And he talked all strange things about aliens, and I don't know what he was talking really, but he invited me to the temple. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. There's a temple nearby. It's only half an hour walk from where I'm staying. And he said, we get up at 4 a.m. and do meditation. And I was interested in meditation. I came from like a Christian background, so I was very much trying a lot to understand about God. And for a while I'd been atheist, and then I've become back to understand about God. But philosophy and nothing was making sense to me, so I was very much looking. I was okay, let me try this. And then I remember I came here, and I was a little bit overwhelmed. All these, I came in this door here, and there was one old Mataji. I said, oh, you're new? Yes, I'm new. So she grabbed my hand, she took me for darshan. It was a Sunday, so very busy. And she introduced me to Radha Gokulananda and Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman. I had absolutely no idea what was happening. I couldn't even see that these were personalities. She would just, people often, if they're from like a Hindu background, they expect everybody to know sometimes. I was absolutely no idea. But then I hung around for some time speaking to the devotees, and it was nice. But when the kirtan started, I remember sitting in here, and it was towards the evening at this time, and then the kirtan started, and that's what convinced me. As soon as I heard the kirtan, before there'd been sort of noisy kirtan that I hadn't really noticed, very, very slow kirtan. And as soon as I heard that, suddenly it just, you have what's called a paradigm